Joining us now is Se Hoon Kim, White House correspondent for Global Strat View and a U.S. Army veteran. So Se Hoon, thank you very much for joining us today. Now, you, of course, work in D.C. You have seen the National Guard in the streets every day since the president deployed them. And in fact, you regularly visit the cafe right beside where the two guardsmen were tragically shot. Now, this shooting has taken a toll on the nation, especially with it happening so close to Thanksgiving, right? What's it been like for you as someone who has also served this country in uniform?
Well, all I can say is that it's a very heartbreaking situation right now, considering the fact that a lot of us who served in uniform feel that those who are responsible for guarding our nation are faced with such danger. And I'm talking about the National Guardsmen that are deployed in DC. And I mean, to be honest with you, I'm still shook right now, considering the fact that, as you rightfully mentioned, I visited the coffee shop that's right by where the incident has happened, and it's I'm just out of words right now. So,
yeah, I mean, that's probably how we feel for most of us, because this is such a tragedy and happening during the holidays as well. You know, a day before Thanksgiving, and the family of Sarah Beckstrom spending Thanksgiving Day in the hospital. It's just really hard to imagine here. And speaking of which, this female National Guard member who was shot, she died, right? And the other guardsman, Andrew Wolf, remains in critical condition. How is this tragedy being felt by the veteran and service member community across the country, would you say?
Well, I can tell you, at least from my point of view, and really, frankly, from the point of view of so many of my other battle buddies, as we call them in the Army, who served with me, and even according to a lot of the NCOs that I've connected with who served in Afghanistan. Again, this is a very tragic moment for all of us. I mean, we feel that this could have been any one of us in uniform. And again, I personally have never had the honor of being deployed or being in combat, but I can tell you for sure, those who have served in Afghanistan or have been deployed in such in such areas, this is a devastating moment for all of them, and particularly because they feel that something that they have experienced there seems to be something that's happening here in the United States. And when I spoke to some of my battle buddies who has told me that this was something that not only affected them just mentally, but it was a great wake-up call for all of us to be a lot more vigilant than ever before. And for me to hear this, especially from those who served in combat, again, it was something extremely heartbreaking to hear, because, like they said, they've never expected something like this to happen here in the United States, and especially those who are, like you rightly mentioned, people who are serving in uniform who should have been at home with their families celebrating Thanksgiving. And it's again, all I can say regarding this is it's just a complete tragedy that should never have happened.
I agree with you on that. This should have never happened, and arguably it has brought to surface a sore point for many veterans, and that is the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And the shooting suspect is, of course, an Afghan national who had worked with the CIA during the war in Afghanistan. I'm wondering if you can explain for us why the withdrawal from Afghanistan is such a sore point for so many veterans, especially those who were deployed there.
Well, it's a sore point because a lot of veterans feel that everything that they have sacrificed and all of the work that they have done is, it's, and sorry to say this, it feels a bit meaningless, considering the fact that we left Afghanistan in such a messy ordeal during such a messy ordeal in a way that costed the lives of so many other servicemen, even during the withdrawal. As you may remember, that there were members of the Marine Corps who tragically lost their lives due to a terrorist attack during the evacuation, the horrific evacuation of 2021, and they feel that this. And they feel in such a way also because, so many of the veterans who fought there went there thinking that we are going to be there to deal with terrorism and honestly the mission that was given to everybody. And it's really not just that also. It's to a point, it's very heartbreaking to see that the people that were involved in helping us have turned out to be the ones that have done such horrific things like this. Now, I don't mean that every Afghan ally applies in this issue in this category. Matter of fact, there's so many members of the Hazara and Tajik and even the Pashtun communities that have given their lives ensuring the safety of our service members when they were there. But then again, for it to happen here in our home turf, right before Thanksgiving, a day where families are supposed to gather together in safety to celebrate all that we're supposed to be grateful for as Americans, to them, this struck at the core. And I can tell you for sure that as far as the conversations that I've had with my old battle buddies and other veterans, this is an event that has echoed across the hearts of all veterans, and many of them, I'm very sure, are having a difficult time processing all of this.
And I just want to echo what you said, that not all Afghan nationals fall under this category. But I do think it does highlight the issue of vetting, however, whether or not the Afghan nationals who were brought to the U.S. Following the withdrawal were properly vetted. So in response to the shooting, the Trump administration suspended all immigration applications from Afghan nationals, as you're already aware of that. What do we know about the scope of the vetting that took place following the withdrawal? The president has indicated that the suspect may have been radicalized or become unstable, after he arrived in the U.S.
Well, like the report said, this individual was not vetted at all. There was absolutely no vetting process done on him before he arrived in the United States. That's one. But number two, you have to remember, going back to 2021, the Biden administration did not have any plan in place or have any actions in place that really should have provided all the vettings that were needed during the evacuation. It was also been said among a lot of the other Afghan communities, all Hazaras, the Tajiks, Pashtuns, Uzbeks, and so on, that the individuals that were coming into the countries were not only largely unvetted, but people didn't know who was coming in and why they were coming in. And a lot of the individuals that did come in through the evacuation, frankly, didn't need to be here, considering the fact that a lot of them reportedly were not under any imminent danger. And again, many, according to the conversations that I've had with the Afghan communities, particularly from those who have lived in Kabul, Jalalabad, and even Mazar-e-Sharif, that the individuals that came in were actually, they were essentially celebrating at the site of the fall of Kabul when they were seeing it on television in the camps that they were staying in within our own soil. However, when that news came out, the Biden administration did little to nothing in terms of dealing with who was supposed to be here, who wasn't supposed to be here, and they were essentially just released into society without any consideration for what they might do in the future. Now, again, like I said before, this doesn't apply to every single Afghan who came here after the fall. I would even say that when we say Afghan allies, those from the Hazara community in particular, those that have been touched with very closely, they actually have been the ones that sacrifice the most in terms of aiding our troops abroad. But they've also warned us about this, that there was little to no vetting done on a lot of the Afghans that were coming here, and it was just a matter. And they said, look, it is not a safe thing to do, and the government needs to do everything it can to deal with this issue. And that voice has been echoed since the fall of Kabul in 2021 up until now. And unfortunately, it strongly seems like our men and women in uniform are paying for it right outside the White House, which in and of itself is, again, it's a very tragic thing for all of us who are Americans and are freedom-loving folks across the world.
So on that point, Se Hoon, let me just ask you one more thing. What do you say to the men and women in uniform who may feel discouraged, all that they have sacrificed for this country, and then they see this shooting happen as if their efforts in Afghanistan or in other aspects weren't worthwhile? What would you say to these people?
Well, the only thing that I would say is that anything and everything that you have done, and we all have done in uniform, should not be. There shouldn't be any shame to it, and particularly for those who were deployed in Afghanistan, who saw a lot of their battle buddies losing their lives or getting hurt in such a way. I mean, I would even say that, look, anybody who's gone through all of that is a hero. And particularly for myself, I had the honor and the privilege of serving in a medical support unit. I've talked to many, many veterans and NCOs and enlisted men, or even officers who were coming through our clinics during our annual training, for example. And they would tell us stories about their time during deployments, the type of sacrifices that they witnessed, they themselves had to also endure as well. And just for that, and I mean, just for having that type of will to serve one's nation, in and of itself is enough to assure all of us that it was actually worthwhile, because we didn't do it for ourselves. We did it for our nation, for the flag that flies proudly all across the United States. And most importantly, we did it knowing that it will, in some way, shape, or form, keep safe all the men, women, and children, ordinary citizens that are staying here, that are living here within the United States and really across the world. And so, it's not meaningless at all. Anything that has been done in uniform is something that's beyond honorable, in my view. And I think even as a veteran, that is a sense of peace that we are that we're okay, and we are that we will be keeping until the time of our passing. I mean, you have to remember, it takes courage to put on that uniform, and particularly to go into an area where one may lose one's life. And that in and of itself is a great act of honor and glory. And I think that's the only focus point that we should be keeping to. No matter how the Afghanistan situation has turned out, and no matter how any situation has turned out, those who took up arms to serve our nation are heroes, and every American should remember that it is because of folks like these that we are able to enjoy the freedoms that we have here in this country. And I would say, for those of us who have ensured that, we should be proud of it. And for those of us who have witnessed or even gone over to fight for our nation, should look at that and be proud of it all through our lives. And that's the only thing that matters. And look, politics will always play out. Politicians will do whatever they need to do. But for those of us who served in uniform, the glory will remain until the time of our death, and our legacy will also remain. And that is, I think, in final, the greatest blessings that I think we have, that we have been given from the Lord above.
Well, Se Hoon, very well said. Thank you for speaking with us, and thank you for your personal service to the country. I have so much respect for that. Thank you very much.